Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good vibes, good energy, good people. It's your boy Mickey Fenty, aka Mickey Made It. If you're new to this channel, you know what to do to this channel. Subscribe right now. Also, if you want to support my brand, it's inspiredbydreams.shop. Okay, today we're talking about Black American women now given bare minimum energy after Trump's election. Let's get it.
Mickey made it. Mickey made what you made, Mickey.
I think every black person in the United States of America, black women in particular, should not give no type of discourse, attention, energy on anything that's going on in the United States of America and the president of the United States of America, period. This is the first and last video I'm going to make about anything for the next 4 years because we already told y'all, like there's nothing more to say. Don't ask us for advocacy. Don't ask us to support. Don't ask us to protest because, bitch, we already told y'all. We told y'all what was going to happen. It's like people really thought this man was bluffing. And that's the craziest thing about all this is that they really thought he was bluffing. And he was banking on y'all to believe that he was bluffing. You got people talking about, no, he's signing things into, whoa, wait, Project 2025 might be coming to real. Whoa, wait, yeah, what you thought it was a joke? No one openly speaks about stuff like that, has a 90-plus page manifesto and doesn't plan on enacting any of the shit that they said they were going to do. Like, you're the dumb one. No, wait, ICE raids are starting tomorrow. Wait, what's going on? I can't. Yeah, bro, we already told y'all, but it's all good. This ain't our fight to fight, Black Americans. Go get rich and stay under the radar because this is not the time to be active. This is not the time to spread awareness. We tried to do that. Remember, we tried to do that. We voted correctly. Remember that. We voted correctly and the polls show it. The stats show it. So just lay back, get rich, stay out the way, stay out the mix, and think. The only thing you need to do for the next 4 years is think. Use your head and think. Love y'all.
Let me clarify something for my fellow minorities. White minorities, black minorities, Asian minorities, whatever, right? If we as black people have been saying forever, hey, help us, this is unfair, this is whatever, and you gaslight us, say that racism's not real, whatever, because you don't give a f till it affects you, why the f would black people give a f when it hurts you when they now come after you after they've already been coming after us? You was on mute mode. You was silent. You didn't give a shit. You weren't out protesting. You weren't talking about it on your pages. You weren't fighting for black people. You was always giving the oppressor the benefit of the doubt. Never giving that grace to black people. So why the f would you expect black people to do it to you when you're suffering? You now and into the future. What are you talking about? Maybe you should have opened your mouth back then and we'd open our mouth now. You.
Attention, black people, particularly black Americans. We gotta do better, y'all, okay? We gotta do better. This needs to be the year of holding ourselves and each other accountable. While I know that there are systems in place that were literally intended to keep us down and to keep us oppressed, I think it's important that we also acknowledge and recognize the things that are within our control and what we can basically do to ensure the progress of our community and to ensure that future generations won't have to deal with the same problems that we're dealing with now. And this literally starts with holding ourselves accountable in several different areas. The first area is gang violence. So I did a whole project about gang violence in the US and also particularly in my hometown of Washington, D.C., where I basically studied different trends, different gun-related deaths, different statistics, everything. A lot of people may not know this, but 2/3 of all gun-related deaths in the US are suicides. About 1/3 of all gun-related deaths in the US are homicides. And then a very small percentage of all gun-related deaths in the US include things like mass shootings, police shootings, unintentional firearm accidents, and things of that nature. And while police shootings of unarmed black men and women are a serious concern that our community should continue to raise awareness about, I think it's important that we also shed light on the role that we play in the deaths of young black men, specifically when it comes to the high homicide rates in certain cities, which are a result of gang violence. We really need to work as a community to find solutions that can help lower and decrease the homicide and gun violence rates in predominantly black cities and neighborhoods. This could be from finding ways to de-escalate certain situations that could result in the use of a firearm, finding ways to regulate the promotion and selling of ghost guns, which are basically unregistered guns in the gun market, or funding youth centers where Black youth can spend more of their time away from the streets and away from gang violence. As someone who was born and raised in Washington, D.C., I have a lot of firsthand experience with gun violence. I've lost friends and families to gun violence, and I know tons of other people who've lost them as well. So we really need to work on holding ourselves accountable, holding our community accountable, especially when it comes to gun violence, which is contributing greatly to the deaths of young Black men and women of all ages. The next area we need to work on is our financial literacy. This can be pretty challenging considering most Americans don't have that much knowledge about financial literacy. It's not a topic that's prioritized in school, and we don't really talk about it that often in any capacity. This is why I think it's important that Black families and Black households find ways to educate themselves, which they are then able to pass on to their children and future generations so that we can start building generational wealth and making wiser financial decisions. This leads to my next point of investing back within our own community. If you take the example of Tulsa, Oklahoma, that was a flourishing, thriving Black community that was really pouring into and investing in itself. Of course, we know what happened when they were successful in doing that. This could be in the form of, buying Black, supporting Black-owned businesses, and just finding ways to really invest in our own community. This could be done by donating to a charity or organization where the funds will be redistributed to certain areas such as healthcare, for example, because there are a lot of neighborhoods, specifically Black neighborhoods, where they don't have access to quality healthcare or access to a hospital at all. The next thing we need to improve on is colorism. I could go on about this for days, but I'm not going to because I'm assuming and hoping that most of us know the negative impact of colorism on our community. Long story short, stop discriminating against certain people because of their complexion and stop putting down certain people, especially Black women of more melanated complexions, just to basically emphasize the preference that you have for certain women of a certain lighter skin tone, okay? You don't need to do that. If you have a preference, that's fine. But you do not need to put down, belittle, and bash another Black woman, especially Black women that are more melanated, just to make your point about your preference, okay? At our big age, it's 2024. Let's leave that in 2023, please. The next area we can improve on is our diet. The number one leading cause of death for both Black men and women is heart disease. Heart disease stems largely from a poor diet and poor lifestyle habits. It is important to acknowledge the systemic factors that have influenced and contributed to the typical diet amongst the Black community. Like, for example, strategically placing much more fast food restaurants and processed foods in convenience stores in predominantly Black neighborhoods. But it is also important to recognize the areas of our diet and lifestyle that we can control by educating ourselves. We can take accountability by having fruitful discussions about how we can improve our diet and lifestyle habits to lower the rate of cardiovascular diseases in the Black community. And this would also involve discussing the matter of soul food. While it is very delicious, it is also rooted in a history where our ancestors were receiving scraps of the food from their masters. And we basically need to really start having discussions about how that is affecting our health now. Because while it can be very delicious and tasty, it does also kind of have a negative connotation around it as well when it comes to our actual physical health. And the last thing I feel like we need to improve on is actually establishing Black families and Black households. I come from a single parent household. I was raised by a single mother, and I have experienced firsthand the effects of not living in a two-parent household. And while I feel like I turned out pretty okay, that's not always the situation for a lot of single parent households. People got to understand that families are literally the foundational units of society. No families means no society. Right now, there are a lot of Black people having kids out of wedlock or just choosing not to get married. And while I understand that everyone has their own personal reasons for maybe not wanting to get married, they still have to understand how it is impacting our community. I think a lot of people don't realize or take for granted that Our ancestors literally had to fight for the right of marriage. They were literally getting married in secret because they weren't allowed to. And this is evident in the case of the jumping the broom ceremony or ritual that our ancestors did in order to officialize their marriage. And while I do acknowledge that dating and courtship has changed drastically since then, I think it's important that we remind ourselves of the values and benefits of marriage. We need to start having more discussions about the historical context of Black families. How Black families were literally ripped apart and separated during slave auctions and sent to different plantations, basically. We really need to hone in on the impact that has had on our community transgenerationally. All in all, this needs to be the year that we hold ourselves accountable, find ways to support and uplift one another, and to really take control of the future of our community. Let me know in the comments if you guys agree or disagree with some of the points that I made, and add any other additional points that you feel like we need to work on or improve on in the Black community.
I pray that you are a part of the collective of melanated women that are currently minding their business and eating their Panera and drinking their water and minding our own business. There is a revolution happening, and it will not be televised. Us as a people need to, and not even need to, you better be sticking together. You better be supporting one another. You better be on the same page with one another. And for all of you dupers, oh, we're going to put a bad thing out and then everybody's going to support it. No. We will only be supporting professionalism. Best foot forward. Real good stuff. Because right now, this ain't even about us. America has made their vote. They have made their choice. Now let's live with it.
Folk really want Black people to act like racism is all said and done and in the past. Like we weren't 3/5 of a person for a long time. Couldn't even have whole personhood. But slavery ended and all of that mentality just went gone. That's not how that works. We weren't even people. And all of a sudden you want us to think that none of that had any like residual effects.
I don't think a lot of y'all understand how distressing it is when a Black woman stops caring. When she cuts you off, it can be devastating and distressing. I've watched it happen in my own life a few times. By the time a Black woman shuts off her heart and blocks you, she has likely offered you a solution, a compromise, something in order for us to live in harmony on a silver platter, and you just flip the platter and just walk away. And it's like, okay, I'll eat that. Goodbye. People think we're playing when we're done because we often stay a little longer than we really needed to. I do it all the time. But when I'm done, I'm done. And looking at this from a generational lens, I'm a millennial. I'm an elder millennial. We watched our mothers and our grandmothers and great-grandmothers and so on and aunties remain with men of any demographic, no count men, who didn't bring them any joy and led them through decades of a nightmare. And just wouldn't go. And I won't just say wouldn't, couldn't. There were certain constraints. There were just things going on where they didn't have that bodily autonomy or personal agency, and we're not judging that. But we took a look at the generations before us, appreciated them for their strength and their resilience, but also took a look at the things that we could change for ourselves and for our future. We went to therapy. Right? We healed codependency. We learned about personal agency. We got our educations. We figured out how to navigate this life and started to understand that we could decide who to allow in our energy, that we could create family and community for ourselves, and it's not always blood. We've learned how to go no contact with narcissistic people. We've learned how to create boundaries for ourselves and to protect our energy. So when you look at this election, Black women handed you a fabulous solution on a platter. There was going to be something for everybody. Again, Kamala, with the life that she's lived and what she's accomplished, she didn't have to do all of this. But she answered the call and she did a fabulous job at it. And here we are again, offering you things that benefit everybody. And y'all turn that down. And now you get to feel what it's like when a Black woman is done. Because we as a community, as a whole, are fed up. It's distressing to people when Black women go no contact, when they shut down. I've had it happen to quite a few people in my life. When I finally block, there's a panic because you don't feel that light anymore. You don't feel that energy, that love, that care. And it's about to happen en masse. And y'all are going to have to figure it out. We're going to be about healing ourselves, about calming all this inflammation that causes all this heart disease that plagues our demographic because we've been carrying the weight of this country on our backs. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to go get healthy. We're going to go be fabulous. We're going to take care of one another. We're going to educate each other and uplift each other. It's time for us to focus on ourselves. And y'all can figure out the rest because obviously the solution that we had and that we offered wasn't good enough. So let's see what everybody else comes up with. Cheers, ladies.
I'm convinced the real reason people are so upset that Black people are going to take a step back during the next 4 years is that they're not going to have anybody to argue with. They're not going to have anybody to counter protest against. Do you know what I mean? Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, right? They're not going to have anyone to entertain them. Because if we're actively not engaging, what are they going to do? They're going to have to talk to each other, and that's gross. Also, I think there's another sect of people that are worried that they're not going to be able to learn from us because we're not going to be teaching. We're not going to be giving dissertations on why X, Y, and Z. They're going to have to figure out themselves because there are so many people on this app that are sponges for Black people, take it in, regurgitate it, and spit it out to everyone else so it's more palatable in their minds, but they're not going to have that. So the fact that Black people are just going to be kind of focusing on themselves and kind of self-reflecting is making people lose their minds. They literally don't know how to act because we've never really been in a society where we haven't seen Black people contribute when it comes to their voice, when it comes to their knowledge, wisdom, and all of that. And now they have to see it, and I think subconsciously they're worried about it. So, good morning.
If this upsets you or makes you feel some type of way, good. It's directed towards you. If you voted for Trump, one day you're going to have to answer to your children as they get older, and your grandchildren, and maybe even your great-grandchildren, and your nieces and nephews. And when they read about this in history books or watch it online, they're going to have a lot of questions. They're going to ask, were you there? What did you do during this time? You're going to have to answer them and say that you voted for a Nazi. You voted for a white supremacist. You sat around while all of it happened and you watched all of your loved ones and your friends' rights get taken away and you did nothing. In fact, you encouraged it by voting for the despicable human being that is now the leader of the land. And I hope that you feel horrible about it. So if you were one of those people, friend, family or not, I want you to sit with that. I want you to sit with the fact that you sat around and voted for a white supremacist or condoned people voting for a white supremacist and you did nothing. You support a man who is endorsed by and supports the KKK. What does that say about you?
Okay. All I can say is a lot of people are secretly depressed behind this whole who's president thing. And to be honest with you, just from certain things you go through and hurdles you get over, you know, for the people that have a better understanding of what's going on and how to prevent themselves from being around these types of people and getting ourselves in these types of situations, it's more of an eye-opener. And I refuse to get depressed over something I have no control over. And you have to believe in something to actually be hurt by that particular thing when it comes down to situations like this. And I don't know. I just wish you guys all the best, and hopefully, you know, get your minds together to do what's best for you. And that's what I'm doing for myself, me and my family, because I know a lot of people, especially even in hip hop, you see a lot of the people say they do this, they do that, but deep down inside they don't care. The coming together part is going to be very, 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 very hard in these times, as I can see, but one of these days we shall overcome. Until next time, it's your boy Mickey Fenty, aka Mickey Made It. If you're new to this channel, you know what to do to this channel. Subscribe.